Chairman Greg Malik resigned, remain standing, and come to order.
Thank you, Sheriff. Our next order of business this evening is the prayer led by Commissioner Edens and our pledge led by Commissioner Ford.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for the blessings of another day. We thank you most of all, Lord, for loving us so much that you'd send your Son to die on a cross for our sins, Lord, to give us the forgiveness that we so much do not deserve. And Father, Lord, I pray for your leadership and your guidance as we go about the county's business tonight. I pray that you be with each member of the commission and each member in this audience, Lord, that we'd all have a heart to do what's right, to follow the leadership of our district, to follow our hearts, and do the very best job we can for each and every person we serve. Ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Let's honor America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll, please. I'm sorry, if you'll go ahead. That was back from our last meeting or two ago. If you'll go ahead and indicate on the screen your presence here this evening.
But I can't work.
Me neither, Mike.
They took the batteries out of yours last meeting. I wonder if they put them back in there.
You stole my batteries, I think.
Last meeting. Yeah, the last meeting.
Well, I thought. You didn't really want me to answer, did you? Still yours too, Chairman. Yours working great? It might. See what that does. There you go. Yeah, mine's working.
I was just about right when I said call the roll, huh? Yes, sir. I'll get rid of this bad battery. All right, Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the roll call. We have 15 present, 0 absent, and we do have a quorum. All right, next item is the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Motion made by Commissioner Edens to approve the agenda, seconded by Commissioner Lott. Discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion passes and the agenda is approved. Right, next item, we'll move on to public comment. Each individual shall be given 3 minutes to address the board regarding agenda items. Comments will be limited to the items on the meeting's agenda. We have 2 individuals signed up to speak tonight. When I call your name, if you'll come forward and give your name and address to the clerk, please, and after that, I'll start your 3 minutes. Our first speaker is Mayor Vest from Jonesboro. Come on up, Mayor Vest.
Chuck Vest, 110 Carriage Lane in Jonesboro. Just came here to really thank the County Commission for what you're doing tonight and what you've done in the past. I know there's been things written in the newspapers that are not quite accurate, but really what this commission is doing is really saving the taxpayers of Washington County, probably $20 million over the other options that you had. This is probably the only thing that you could do to prevent a tax increase, otherwise, to get a new school anyway. Johnson City has needs, so this is a good win for them. The taxpayers of our county, we don't want to see a tax increase, and you won't see that. And this is good for the county commission. You get to solve some issues here in Jonesboro, and you're assisting Johnson City. And you look at this agreement that Mayor Grandy's worked out, and with Mr. Peterson, it's good for everybody. You figure over the next 24 years, there's no doubt that Johnson City would have had some capital needs. So if anything, you're just prepaying some things that they'd have had otherwise. So I think it's a good agreement. Saves the taxpayers money, and that's what we all want. So again, thank you for everything you do.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, our next speaker is Mr. Cawthorn, Dwayne Cawthorn. Dwayne, if you'll come forward to the podium, give your address to the clerk, please.
2316 Jonesboro.
All right.
I'd like to speak on a thing or two. I think a lot of y'all don't know where this is going. I think the whole deal, we're getting railroaded. Taxpayers, these taxes going to go up sky high. This passes. Now, I got nothing against Johnson City. I think they're the ones that really is getting the bad deal, because when you raise taxes, Johnson City's taxes is way out the roof. I mean, I live in Jonesboro. I pay 2 taxes. I got commercial land, but Johnson City is really getting railroaded. And, why in the world didn't they go with Joe McCoy's over? I know Joe good. I know he would have, for the school, he'd have took a reasonable price for the land. And you ought to look, y'all's done spent $1 million on the roof. I mean, I just rented to a couple the other day. I asked the little girl that went over, I said, sweet little girl, I said, how is that school over there? Do you like it? She said, I love that school. I said, well, is the roof leaking? And she said, no, I don't see no leak. And I said, so you like those? Well, I love it. And I'm just thinking, my gosh, spend $1 million on a roof, and then now I'm hearing they're going to put kids that maybe not quite right, or, I know disability kids, and I want them to have as good as anybody, what's taking, this school over there to throw this, but the school's good enough. I say it's good enough for, Joe's got all this land, and why spend all this money? And then I started searching a little bit, digging a little deeper, and supposedly this guy that's got this land, Kelly Wolf, is wrapped up in it. So I think you need to do a little more digging. I think he's a big conflict of interest. in this land. Supposedly, once this deal goes down, he's gonna fill the pockets up, because the guy still owns it, you're gonna see his name on it, but Kelly Wolf's dug into this thing. And, but over at Jonesboro, just to make a long story short, I think the school over at Joe McCoy, I know him well, and I think the school ought to be put over there and just get, and our taxes, everybody's being killed on these taxes. It's a darn shame. So I just hope y'all do the right thing, and you need to dig on this land a little bit that's supposedly to be purchased. Because I got pretty much to the core of it, so I'm not on the commission, so, y'all have to dig through that. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dwayne. All right, we'll keep our public hearing open, but we do have a rezoning matter that we need to continue with the public hearing on. We do have the rezoning is rezoning for Bright Ridge. It's in the 2nd Civil District, and it's A1 General Agriculture District to the A3 Agricultural Business District. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor of this request? If you'll give your name and address to the clerk, please, sir, when you come to the podium.
My name is Sam Ford, and I live in Unicoi, 180 Jim Jones Road. And so I'm with the petitioner, Bright Ridge. I'm here to answer any questions you all may have.
They can't ask you any questions during the public hearing. It's just for you to state whether you are for it during this time, and give reasons that you are for the rezoning.
Thank you.
In the next part of the program, after Mrs. Charles comes up, if there's any questions, she'll call you back to the podium to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and return us back into regular session. The next item is Mrs. Angie Charles, our planning and administrator. And Angie, if you'll come forward and speak to us on this rezoning matter.
Thank you. The majority of this property is vacant. However, there is an existing utility substation in the middle of the site. The rezoning request has been submitted for the purpose of expanding Bright Ridge's use on the property. And in the future, the petitioner does wish to add solar panels to the site. However, the immediate request is to allow for a blockchain data center. The data center will consist of a series of containers and 3,000 kVA transformers. So Bright Ridge currently is proposing 4 sets of 6 containers and 4 transformers in total. The Planning Commission voted unanimously to approve the request, and no citizen opposition has been received. May I answer any questions? Yes, sir.
If we rezone it to A3, will that allow them to do the solar panels in the
Yes, sir.
future under that zoning?
Yes, sir, it will.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Angie. We appreciate all your hard work. All right, the minutes of the February 4th Regional Planning Commission packet are in your packet, page 5. We do have Resolution 200201 is the resolution rezoning the Bright Ridge property in the 2nd Civil District owned by Bright Ridge. Do we have a motion for that resolution? Motion made by Commissioner Harris to approve, seconded by Commissioner Ford, also to approve the resolution. Discussion or questions? Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll move us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 15 yes, resolution passes. That'll conclude our items for rezoning this evening. Our next item will be the presentation by our Airport Authority, our TCAA Executive Director, Mr. Gene Cossey. Gene, if you'll come forward to the podium.
Hello.
Hello, it's very good to see you.
Nice to see you. Thank you all for having me here tonight. I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what we're doing out at the airport, an update of some of the things going on, and I'll make it fairly quick and then give you an opportunity to ask me any questions if you're interested in anything. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Gene Cossey. I'm the Executive Director of the Tri-Cities Airport Authority. I've been here for right at a year now. Prior to being at this airport with you all, I was in Central Illinois at the Champaign-Urbana Airport working for the University of Illinois. Prior to that, I was in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, where I was the Director of Operations for the Cedar Rapids Airport. Prior to that, I was in Cincinnati as the Director of Airside Operations, running the Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky operations. And then prior to that, I lived on the Oregon coast for about 22 years, where I managed a couple of different airports. So I've been in this business since I was about 19 years old. Told everybody I started out cleaning bathrooms, so I've done just about every single job with airports that you can think of, except for fly the airplanes commercially. They haven't let me do that yet. They're probably not going to, but who knows? I can keep hoping. And then I have a bachelor's degree in business administration and information technology design, a master's degree in public administration. I'm working on a doctorate degree in public administration, and I have 2 professional accreditations in airport management and airport direction. So I've got a decent experience and decent background in running airports, and I was very happy to come here and join this community and help and take over this airport here. It's a very great airport, well run, with a lot of great history and a lot of good past. I don't know how much everybody here knows about the history of the airport. I'm going to assume you know a lot, but I'm going to go over it anyway just to make sure, but I'll do it briefly since I do anticipate most of you already know everything about how things were done. But the airport was an airport commission that was owned by the cities of Johnson City, Kingsport, Bristol, Virginia, and Bristol, Tennessee, as well as Sullivan and Washington counties. And in 2012, the commission transitioned to an authority, which is more of an independent government operation. But each of the 5 cities, or the 4 cities and the 2 counties that were involved in the original commission, now appoint members to our authority. So we still, through that board and through that authority, answer to the stakeholders that were originally the owners of the airport. But we do have 3 members who are from Washington County that are appointed each time. There's basically 3 or 4 basic things that we focus on at the airport and what our core business is, and that is commercial aviation. Commercial aviation is extremely important to what we do and important to the communities. Corporate aviation, which is allowing businesses to do their business coming in and out of our region and makes it possible for us to attract and help businesses like even Eastman and Bell Helicopter operate here. And then, of course, we do general aviation, and then we're focused on the operations and maintenance of the airport and overall economic development. For commercial air service, we've got a few good things happening. I think most of you know that right now we have Delta Airlines, American Airlines, and Allegiant Airlines. Delta goes through Atlanta, American goes through Charlotte, and recently, as of last September, they go through Dallas-Fort Worth as well. We've got really good news that just came out the other day. The Dallas-Fort Worth flight has been upgauged, which means starting in June, they're going to use a bigger aircraft, so there'll be more seats, it'll be a more comfortable aircraft, and it's going to have first-class service that our frequent flyers really want. The flight back and forth to Charlotte's a short flight, takes real fast, so the smaller aircraft that we fly that on really isn't that much of an issue for people, but the Dallas flight's a pretty long leg, takes about 2 to 2.5 hours, and that smaller aircraft gets a little cramped, so we got a lot of excitement about the larger aircraft, and we're excited about it. Then we also have Allegiant Airlines, who flies year-round, twice a week to Sanford, the Orlando area, and then they fly seasonally to St. Pete. We've been trying to work with Allegiant to get them to expand that out to more frequency in St. Pete and to look at other destinations. So a couple of things that we're focused on when we talk about commercial aviation and growing air service, we're looking at our regional demand. So how many people in the region want to fly out of the airport somewhere? And then we look at, based on that demand, how much do we actually capture? So how many people out of that demand actually want to or actually do fly out of Tri-Cities Airport? What we look at, the last study we did, and we're going to do a new study fairly soon, we're capturing about half of our traffic. So we've got around 800,000 people a year who want to fly in and out of here, and we only capture about 400,000 people a year. And those numbers vary just a little bit. The main reason why we only capture about half of it is because we don't have enough seats flying in and out of the market to catch them all. Most of our flights going in and out are full. We run at about an 85 to 90% load factor around the average, and so that means that on any one flight it's probably full, and then we have the occasional here and there that aren't full, which bring that average down. So that's our biggest issue in trying to attract more or trying to catch more of our passengers, is that we just don't have enough seats in the market. So that's a very good thing when we go and talk to the airlines and try to get them to put more seats in the market and add more service. And we're constantly do that. We meet about 3 times a week with, or 3 times a year, 4 times a year sometimes with the airlines, trying to show them what is important with our community and how they can expand their service and be profitable. We've got a good presence with corporate aviation and general aviation out there. We've got 5 or 6 based larger jets. We're trying to look at ways to attract even more of the larger corporate aircraft and corporate operations. And then we do a large general aviation community with people flying anything from the smaller aircraft all the way up to small light twins. And both of those generate a lot of traffic at the airport, and we're always happy to see them. Then the other main thing that we're always focused on trying to maintain is just the operations of the airport. Of course, we have to maintain the terminal, we have to maintain the parking operations, all the runways and taxiways. So it's a owner's job to always make sure that the airport is safe and operating as efficiently and as effective as possible. And then we also try to make sure that we're working in every way we can for capital development and infrastructure development to make sure the airport is maintained as a good, strong facility that is always usable and will last for a very long time, because it is one of the primary assets of the region, and we want to make sure that asset is taken care of and protected. We are, in essence, a small city all on our own. We have our own public safety department with police and fire. We have what's equivalent to a public works department with a maintenance and building services people. We have roadway people. So we're like a little mini city over there, the way we run and the way we operate and the way we accommodate all of our tenants. And then the big thing, which I'll talk on for just a second, is what we're trying to do in economic development. I think a lot of you understand that we have the aerospace park that we've been building and been working on. When I first got here a year ago, you could hardly tell much had happened. In the last year, we've done a lot of work out there, and all that ground is relatively flat. We're anticipating that the project will be done in about probably 6 months if the weather cooperates. If the weather gives us a little bit of a bad time this spring with a lot of extra rain, we're probably looking about 9 or 10 months. But it's on schedule, and it's going very well, either at or going to be under budget, so we're excited about that. For those of you who aren't aware of how that happened, several years ago, obviously before I got here, there was a couple of companies interested in locating to the airport or to this region with aerospace industry, and at the airport they didn't have any room for them to build. And so that was kind of an impetus to develop this aerospace park. And one of the things that I've seen as one of the best examples of cooperation amongst any set of communities like this, Washington County, Sullivan County, Johnson City, Kingsport, and Bristol, Tennessee, all came together and helped fund this project so that we could start leveling all the ground, put in all the roadways, and put in all the utilities. Of course, that all takes time, but we're almost there now. And so the next few efforts that we're going to do is start looking at the ways in which we can attract businesses and industry out there to bring in jobs, or to bring in industries that have a strong economic impact to the region, and bring in good good, strong jobs for our community. We're partnering with folks like the people at Northeast State Community College with workforce development to build a FAA-certified airframe and power plant school. And we're starting to work on building our strategic objectives and our business plan for Aerospace Park so that we can get out there and really aggressively market the facility to as many of the industries that are not just in the country but around the world who may want to locate here. We've got some great assets out there in conjunction with the Aerospace Park. We are a Customs and Border port of entry, so international flights can come directly into the airport and offload cargo and have it inspected by Customs. And we have a foreign trade zone, which eliminates a lot of the tariffs for products that are being assembled and then shipped elsewhere. So that's in general, trying not to take up too much of your time, a big overview of who I am, the airport, and I wanted to leave a little bit of time for questions, anything you might want to ask. And I also just want to extend an invitation to anybody who ever wants to come out and see the airport or see what we're doing with Aerospace Park. You can always get a hold of me. I know Joe and know how to get a hold of me, so just reach out and we can make sure that you get a tour and see what you want to see out there at the airport. And I'm open to any questions you may have for me.
How soon how do you go about marketing that? Is it done through the airport's resources? Is it done through networks partnerships? Is it done through NetRep? I mean, who is actually marketing that property when it becomes ready to?
So for a couple of reasons, prior to me being here, the administration of the airport prior was really focused on just getting the project done. And they didn't establish a real strong plan for doing a lot of aggressive marketing of the Aerospace Park. It's been my goal since I've been here to really start taking a more active and aggressive role in marketing it. With that said, we do rely a lot on the State Economic Development Corporation and Networks, since we are located in Sullivan County. But with that, Networks partners with NetRep, and we work with NetRep when it's appropriate. And a lot of the potential clients that will come through those facilities and those organizations to us. But one of the things we're going to try to work on and focus on is getting more aggressive on building awareness that we're here, building awareness to the corporations across the country and even across the world that are looking for different locations, and let them know why we're a strong location and why we're a good location for them to come to. So that'll be in conjunction with what groups like Tennessee Economic Development and Networks does for us, and it'll be just a little extra work on that side. We've got a team of people through our business development director and through our marketing director and through a consultant that does marketing for us that are all working on that right now. And then we're looking at perhaps even getting some consulting services to help develop the long-term business plan for the Aerospace Park.
Maybe when all the dirt's moved and the dust is settled, maybe a little.
Well, that is one of the challenges. We've got about 40 acres right now that's ready to build on, and that particular spot could be open any moment now. But the larger, complete open area of it, that's going to be more attractive when it's done. A lot of companies want to wait and see the project actually completely finished before they express a lot of interest.
Maybe when we get to that point, you said maybe 6 months.
If the weather holds out, I'm betting by 6 to 7 months we'll be done. If we have a let's not call it a bad winter, we have a wet winter or a wet spring, then we're probably looking at this time next year before we're done.
Be a great time for the commission maybe to come back and visit, you know, back and see all the work that's been done out there and what you actually are marketing. So if you wouldn't mind to let us know, or you're welcome to come back anytime.
Okay.
But let us know, and it might be a good time just to come back and see the amazing progress. I'm sure the last time I was out there, I was very impressed what all's been done.
Yeah, and like I said, in the year I've been here, the amount of dirt that's moved has been phenomenal, and it's a lot of work. There's by no means an easy task to flatten that area out.
No. Any questions any more questions for Mr. Causey? All right. Gene, thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Our door is always open to you. All right, our next item is the receive and consider the minutes of the January 27th, 2020 meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. It's been mailed to you. The motion made by Commissioner Tester, seconded by Commissioner Fitzgerald, to accept the minutes of our last January meeting. Questions or discussion? Seeing none. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. And the minutes are accepted. We do not have any elections or appointments this month. And our next report is the County Mayor's report. Mayor Grandy? Thank you, Mayor. The County Attorney's report, Ms. Wilkinson?
Likewise, I didn't prepare a written report, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any.
Thank you. The Director of the Health Department is our next report. Director Benning? Thank you very much. And our Director of Schools, Dr. Flannery? Dr. Flannery, you've got to come on up to the mic, or I'm going to get in trouble. I'm just going to be in trouble if you don't.
All
so.
right, do I need to give my address?
No, we
on
got
the
your
same
address.
Anyway, this tells our students what's available and our community what's available at Boone and Crockett under the umbrella of Career and Technical Education, what careers are available, where they can go to school to get training after high school. And I'm really proud of the fact that this was designed and created at the print shop at David Crockett High School. So I want to just hand this back to Steve. I can answer any questions the Commissioner might have. Other than that, I have no report, Mr. Chairman.
Is there any questions for Dr. Flannery before we let him sit back down? Seeing none, thank you, Dr. Flannery, for all you do. I appreciate, I know you've been very busy this month and seen you at several schools. All right, our next item is the Commercial, Industrial, and Agricultural Committee. Commissioner Carriger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our minutes are located on page 15. And one note I will make is that on March 26th, we're going to have a get-together with the folks down at Spark Plaza to talk about entrepreneurship and new businesses in Washington County. And it's going to be at 6 o'clock on March 26th, Spark Plaza, and that's right on South Rome Street, and all of our commissioners are invited to come to that. Be glad to answer any questions if there's anything on our minutes. If not, we'll move on to our resolutions. We've got a resolution number 20-0202, a resolution ratifying Washington County, Tennessee's acceptance of Select Tennessee Site Development Grant, reference Washington County Industrial Park Expansion Project and associated budget amendments. That's on page 17. That comes from our committee with recommendation for approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Carriger to approve the resolution, seconded by Commissioner Malone. Is there any discussion or questions? Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 no, the resolution passes. Commissioner Carriger?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have another resolution. That's number 20-02-03, resolution accepting the report of the 2020 Washington County Commissioners Workshop retreat held on January 25th, 2020, and ratifying the action steps identified by the participants. That's on page 21. Be glad to answer any questions, and if there are any before we take action. That comes also with the recommendation and a motion for approval from the committee.
Motion made by Commissioner Carriger to approve the resolution, seconded by Commissioner Davenport. Discussion or questions? We had a very good workshop and a very good retreat. and felt like we had several things accomplished. Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 15 yes, resolution passes. Anything else, Commissioner Carrier?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we got resolution number 20-02-05, resolution creating and appointing members to a communications task force, and that's on page 29, and that comes also with a motion and a recommendation for approval from the CIA committee.
Motion made by Commissioner Carrier, seconded by Commissioner Fitzgerald to approve the resolution. Discussion or questions? Commissioner Jones, did you have a question? Commissioner Jones?
Yeah, I just wanted to insert really quickly that in between these two resolutions is a memorandum on pages 26 through 28 of your packet that our wonderful attorney developed for us, that breaks out all of the things we've done to this point as commissioners to address our three objectives. So as we continue to work toward those three workshop objectives, I hope she'll continue to help us document those, and we're going to organize them by those three separate objectives, but it's going to be a nice way for us to look back on what we've accomplished. Thank you for doing that, Ms. Wilkinson. And I just want to remind the chair, too, that we need to have a quarterly update next month.
We'll make sure it's in your packet.
That's all.
All right, Commissioner Ford, did you have a? Okay. Any questions or comments? Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 15 yes, resolution passes. Anything else, Commissioner Carrier?
No, Mr. Chairman, that concludes our report.
Thank you. You'll see here also in the next item, you'll see the report of the County Industrial Development Board. It's in your packet. They had a meeting on the January the 24th. That'll be on page 37. Next item is our Employee Compensation and Benefits Committee. Commissioner McAllister.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You'll find our report on page 39. We can had an update from Ms. Stewart, and also continued our discussion about employee workman's compensation benefits. We hope to have you a resolution update next month. We probably would have had one this month, but I had some questions myself. I just wanted to clarify before we brought it this month. So hopefully we'll have it to you next month.
Any further
Any
questions
further
for
things,
Commissioner McAllister? Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
I read that. I seen was that Commissioner Davenport had made some recommendations. Is there any way you could tell us what some of those recommendations were that were made?
Do you remember exactly?
Yeah, the recommendations that basically, I don't have them in front of me, we talked about allowing anyone off on workman's comp to be able to use sick time to make up.
Yes.
So, is that right?
I think it was to make them whole, to make sure that we yes.
Because
Yeah.
you can't go over. You can't go over your base pay. So that was one of our, and it was just about making them whole. Okay? Right now, they can lose some money. It was just about making that whole.
Was there anything brought up about their insurance? I know they have to pay their own insurance when they're off. If we looked at how we could pay
I think that
that.
was one of the areas we wanted to discuss to make sure we had that covered.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry I didn't get to come, but I'll try to make.
No,
it.
that's what we, and yeah, we want to make sure we had everything covered, and we want to make sure we got it right.
Okay.
Any other members want to refresh my memory on it's been a month, anything else we added? Yeah. But that's all I have, Mr. Chairman, at this time.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. All right, our next item is the Health, Education, and Welfare Committee. Commissioner Edens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You'll find our minutes on page 44 in your packet. Be happy to try to answer any questions any of the commissioners may have from the minutes. We have two resolutions for the commission to consider. First resolution is number 20-0204, resolution authorizing the replacement of Daniel Boone High School gym roof. This is not to exceed $400,000. I bring that to you from the committee in the form of a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made by Commissioner Tester, seconded by Commissioner Davenport. No.
No, sir.
Commissioner Tester.
My employer is providing
services for the Daniel Boone Gym re-roof and for Wood.
I'm going to abstain from the vote on resolutions 4 and 13 and recuse myself from the discussion.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Apologize for the confusion.
Oh, it's okay. We did have a motion and second. Is that correct? Motion was made by Commissioner Edens, seconded by Commissioner Davenport. Floor is open for any questions or discussion.
This is geared toward, Mr. Patrick.
Mr. Patrick, if you'll come forward to the podium, please.
Yes, if we can replace this roof, will that like give us a little bit of time before, how's the rest of the roof, how long is it gonna be before the rest of the roof's gonna have to be replaced?
Well, actually, the entire roof was on our 5-year plan and has been for the past several years. So when we started building the Boones Creek School, we backed it up a year. And actually, we're at the drop dead date now. But this will actually buy us a little time, but not a lot. The entire school's in need of re-roofing.
I want to know how close, and that'd be big bucks, wouldn't it?
Yes, sir.
I wouldn't know.
Mr. Patrick, since Commissioner Ford did have a question along those lines, and just reading it, is there a plan to re-roof that school in sections, or the next re-roofing would be the entire school? What would be your recommendation?
The original plan was to re-roof the entire building, with the exception of the addition of the science wing and the new ROTC wing, which was done about 12 years ago. So those roofs are sufficient for the time being. But the original plan was to re-roof the rest of it in its entirety. This plan, when we brought it to HEW, thought that we could probably do better with just doing the gym roof portion at this time, but with the realization that the rest of the school must be re-roofed soon.
Do you know where it's sitting on the 5-year plan right now?
Sir?
Do you know where it sits on the 5-year plan right now?
It was to have been done last year, but this year's where it's been moved to.
What's the total cost on everything?
The total cost?
All the roofs.
The last budget estimate we've had is $2.6 million.
2.6?
Yes, sir. Of course, we're looking at well over 100,000 square feet.
This was a $400,000, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, but the problem is when you do it in sections, you have what you would call general conditions, that you'd have a startup to man the job. And then if we start that, re-roof that, we take those folks away and we re-roof the rest of it, maybe 6 months from now, you'll have that initial cost again. So you're looking at probably a 10 or 15% on top of that.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick.
Thank you.
We have a motion and second on the floor. Any further questions or discussion?
Call for question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, the resolution passes. Commissioner Edens?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next resolution to consider is resolution number 200213, resolution to support the proposed terms and authority to execute the interlocal agreement to provide capital improvement funding for Johnson City schools. Committee brings this to you in form of a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Eden, seconded by Commissioner Carriger to approve the resolution. Discussion, question? Commissioner Harris?
I guess my main question is, I know when we talked about this Jonesboro school, one of the things that we looked at was to make sure, at least that's the way my vote was cast, that it would not raise property taxes to do the school. I would just like to know where this money's coming from, and if that's still the reality, that we're building it without raising taxes, because you're looking at, what, $12.5 million more here added on to that cost. So that would be my question to whoever.
Yeah. Mayor, you or Mr. Meredith want to take a stab at that one?
There's been a lot of consideration and thought put into to how this would be funded. Payment would not begin until the school was occupied, which is planned to be in 2023. We've actually, in the capital investment plan, which you all will see again as we start through the budget process, $2.6 million beginning in 2023, which should cover, which will cover all the costs related to both leases and the $500,000 payment to Johnson City. So, yeah, we're not painting ourselves into a corner or creating a hole somewhere. So, does that answer your question?
I just remembered when we met before, we said I was told by, I think, you all, the lady was here that night, that the price that we had for the school itself was putting us in a close position of having to cut other needs that we might have. So what's this do to those needs? In other words, you're talking about a $3 million roof possibly coming up. I mean, is those things still?
And those are still in the capital investment plan, and so the roof for the Daniel Boone facility is still in the plan. Now, that's not to say if something unexpected shows up that has a higher priority, then you start putting some pressure on your funding availability, your resource availability. So, but as it stands now, with the school's 5-year plan, with the things that are known that the county has on its plate over the next 5 years, there is a sufficient revenue stream to pay for those things.
And that is including that $2.6 million roof.
That is correct. Well, actually, it's in the last number we had for the total roof, I think, was 1.7.
That's after this?
Yeah, so, if prices that are in the capital investment plan or expected cost are 3 or 4 years old and need to be updated, that is something that the commission will have to consider if those prices have changed.
Any further questions? Well, Mr. Mayor?
Just to be clear on that, I mean, that's really a good question, a good consideration, but you've got to remember from the very beginning of this Jonesboro project consideration that money that was planned for various projects, capital projects for the schools, was somewhat sacrificed in order to get the school project done. So that hasn't changed since the very beginning of the Jonesboro project. And we don't know what all the anticipated needs for capital for schools will be over time. But all of those that are currently on the schedule have been accounted for and won't require any additional capital to fund those. That's not to say we have 15 buildings in the school system. So, you just have to understand that And 5 of those were built in 1939. They're 81 years old this year. So there will be capital needs in the future for the schools. They just haven't been identified in the plan. And so the plan called for 1.7 and some change $1 million for Boones Creek Route. The latest requested from the estimate is 2.6. I'm not really sure what the differential is on that. That's part of the reason we just decided that it might make sense to go ahead and get this gym done, because that was the highest priority. And everyone knows that gym floors are really expensive. So if we have a leaky roof in the gym and we wind up replacing the roof plus the gym floor, then you just have additional money. But just want to be clear on how this thing came together.
I just got one follow-up, if I can.
Yes, Commissioner.
I guess one other thing that I'm just concerned about, and I don't want to see it happen to us, I know that our budget every year is growing. And I think you've even said at a rate higher than what our growth is, the way I understood the last time you made a presentation. In other words, we're growing, spending more money at a faster rate than our tax base is increasing at a lower rate than what the budget's going up. So that's a concern I have when we're looking at this much money out of the capital fund. You have other needs come up, let's say at the sheriff's department or other places in the county. Are we planning for any of those needs in the future?
Right, that's a great question also, and I'll just say that the capital projects plan for the schools is a little separate from the general government capital projects plan. There is funding in place in general government capital projects for the jails. In fact, last week I met with some contractors over there to begin to look at the HVAC system there on the oldest part of the jail, which was completed in 1995. So it's now at its projected life. As you all know, the historic courthouse the same way. That system is 1985 system, so it's well beyond its projected life. Both of those projects were planned in the capital projects money funding for general government, and a few other miscellaneous projects that we have looked at.
Mayor, before you leave, and I'm going to ask this before Commissioner Harris does, operational monies, when we talk about the sheriff and the assessor and all these different elected officials and their functions that are critical each day, just for the operation of county government, and just talking about the general fund budget. I mean, where do you see the critical need lies? I mean, we've talked about a lot of capital money and a lot of capital projects, but operationally every day, and we do have our budget coming up. So that's something we all could be thinking about. Could you address that maybe just a tad? And I know you've not seen any budget numbers yet because everybody hadn't turned them in.
Right, they're coming in and they're due by the end of the month, and we will begin to work on that in March, having the departments come and appear before the budget committee. You'll notice in the schedule for March, there are 2 separate additional dates for the budget committee to meet specifically to hear department requests. So you may recall over the last several years, we have provided increase in salaries across the county. We have approximately 475 employees in the county, and a 2% or 3% or a raise or whatever, is impactful. And we are, the growth in our county revenues, which are primarily from property taxes and just a few miscellaneous fees, have been somewhere, and this year we're projecting about 1.1%. They were just a little under 1% last year. I think most of you all recognize inflation is slightly over 2.2 to 2.5%. So every year we drift slightly back. It's not that necessarily county government is spending more money on extra things. It's just that the cost of goods that we purchase, food for the jail, supplies, uniforms, ammunition, weapons, you name it, increase every year in accordance with inflation or sometimes more. So when the revenue is lagging, those expenses increases, then obviously, the gap begins to grow. So we will see, Chairman will acknowledge that we spent some time with the folks in our Sheriff's Department last week or the week before, just, sort of trying to understand what it takes for the Sheriff's Department to hire folks for patrol and really for the jail. We are short a few staff members in the jail, and with 600 guests in there or so on an average day, when we're understaffed, it's dangerous. And we don't want to put our people in that situation in harm's way. So we discussed, shifting the pay scale in there so that they could actually maybe hire some people and, get that situation corrected to protect our folks. I mean, that's just some of the things we need to be thinking about.
Mr. Mayor, just an observation. I see a lot of apartment buildings going up around here, and I understand that real estate is really starting to move. It might be worthwhile to talk with Dr. Smith out at the university to see if we could get a handle on what our growth is going to look like this year in terms of, homes being built, apartments, commercial. Those have a direct effect, especially the commercial, on sales tax and property taxes. So maybe get ahead of the curve and just kind of see, where we might be a year or two from now.
Yeah, absolutely, and with business expansion as well. So I'd be happy to do that. And typically his data lags. And so what we are looking at is essentially last year's assessed values and how they're going to impact this very next fiscal year. And that's where that 1.1%. You have an update on that? It's still looking about the same? Yeah. So that's really what we'll expect to see for next year. So we'd like to be able, and hopefully what you're seeing out there in terms of construction and some of the things we work diligently on every day in order to grow the community will begin to have an impact over time. We are coming up. A couple of years ago, we just had a 0.5% growth, and we were really the only county in the region that had any growth. So
it might be as simple as going around talking to the banks and just seeing what they've got in the pipeline of loans. But, rather, I guess my analogy is that we're driving down the road, and let's don't look in the rearview mirror while we're driving. Let's look out where the headlights are and see where we're going, because I'm just curious what we might find out in terms of the growth of this county.
Great. We'll do that, sir.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Ford?
I put a lot of thought process in this before I cast my vote. And this whole project was sold on the idea that Johnson City would get no money out of this because there's a win-win for our taxpayers. Well, that wasn't fair to Johnson City residents because they pay about, I think at least 61% of the taxes.
63.
And I didn't think that was right. I didn't think that to start with. And I still don't think it's right tonight because the way my figures are come out at 12.5, that's not even half of what they would have got on $44 million on the 32,750 project. And fair is fair, right's right, and wrong's wrong. And I don't think this is right the way we're going about it. And there's just too many open-ended questions. I wasn't against building a school. I'm not against building a school now. There's just too many open-ended questions. Nobody till tonight I was told anywhere from 25 to 38 years project. And I was told tonight it's 25 years. I don't know if it's a communication problem we're having or what it is, but I don't see, at 1% growth rate, I'm not the smartest person in the world. But I understand that, at 1% growth rate, we're gonna have to curtail spending somewhere. Somebody's gonna have to stop spending money. And that comes to us. Bottom line, it says, or we're gonna have a tax increase face us. That's just the way it is. Common. It's just common sense approach to it, in my opinion. And, everybody knows our schools come first. I've always been a proponent of our schools, and I will be, I continue to be. But, spending, we're gonna have to start curtailing our spending somewhere. And I don't think that's a fair project. I wasn't for the project to start with Jonesboro, because, and it wasn't anything to do with Jonesboro. It's just I didn't feel like it was the right thing to do because there's too many unanswered questions. And there's still a lot of questions not being answered to me. And that's why I can't support that tonight. Johnson City deserves better, and our taxpayers deserve better.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments or questions?
Call for question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 10 yes, 4 no, 1 absent, the resolution passes. Commissioner Edens? Anything else?
That's all we have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. All right, our next item is the Investment Committee. Commissioner McAllister.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You'll find our notes on page 66. Again, we met with our county trustee, Mr. Rick Story. Again, you can see the attachment he provided to us there. A lot of good information he provided. And one thing I was impressed with, the money that he has currently right now is being reinvested locally. He's using local banks, which I was glad to see. Says we're in good shape right now. And he encouraged if anyone had any questions of him to please stop by any time. He has open door policy and would love to, more than happy to talk to you at any time. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman, unless there are any questions of me.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any questions for Commissioner McAllister? All right, seeing none, our next report is the Public Safety Committee report. Commissioner Wheeler.
Mr. Chairman, find the minutes of our February 6th meeting on page 68 of the packet. We have two resolutions for you this evening. First consideration of resolution number 20-02-06, resolution amending fiscal year budget 2019-2020 regarding fire prevention and control, purchase and installation of one fire hydrant, found on page 70 of your packet. This comes by way of a motion from the committee.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler, seconded by Commissioner Ford to approve the resolution. Discussion? Question?
Call for question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote. Lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 15 yes, resolution passes. Commissioner Wheeler?
Our next resolution for your consideration is resolution number 20-02-07, resolution authorizing Washington County, Tennessee's acceptance of emergency management performance grant federal fiscal year 2019, found on page 73 of your packet. This comes by way of a motion from the committee.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler, seconded by Commissioner Light to approve the resolution. Discussion or questions?
Call for question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 15 yes, resolution passes. Commissioner Wheeler?
That's all we have.
Thank you. Next item is the Public Works Committee. Commissioner Davenport?
Yes. Receive our minutes on, from the February 6th meeting with attachments on page 75. We have two resolutions for you tonight, both coming in the form of a motion. Resolution number 200208 is resolution sponsor a joint resolution on behalf of Washington County naming an interchange off of I-26 Boost Creek exit number 17 in memory of Senior Airman Benjamin Daniel White, United States Air Force.
There's a motion from Commissioner Davenport, seconded by Commissioner Harris. I will advise you on these two resolutions. A lot of times when these are going to Nashville, our representatives like to see a 2/3 majority. So, Commissioner McAllister?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I just want to say, obviously, as a veteran, I wholeheartedly support this resolution. And also, I wanted to personally thank Mr. Alan Jackson for all his help on this. If y'all don't know Alan, I'm sitting in the second row back there. He's our local historian, military historian. There's been over 350-some men since World War I who have died in Washington County in service to our country. And Alan knows a story on every single one of them. Almost a couple of years ago, Alan came to me and told me about this. And I said, well, Alan, rumor has it it's going to be named for somebody else. You know what? Alan didn't take no for an answer. He went out there and did the research and got to make sure that this young man was honored. And I think it's a small token we can do. He made the ultimate sacrifice for our country. And this is just a small token to honor this young man. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner McAllister. Commissioner Jones?
I'm going to hold my question for the next item.
Okay. Commissioner Harris?
I just want to say something about Benjamin White. I knew him well. I knew his family. And I went with the military to his family's house when they found out he got killed. And he was a fine young man and had a lot of fine people. Many of you know Doug White, owned White's grocery store. That would have been his uncle. Kurt White was his grandpa, a veteran. Still gets me a little bit thinking about it, going back. But just a fine young man. And I appreciate Alan bringing this up and what Commissioner McAllister said, because I too agree. We sure need to honor our real heroes.
Alan's done a great job behind the scenes on this. I just want you all to know he can generate a letter faster than the Pony Express. So, Alan, thank you for all your hard work. I know when I called, I'm like, man, I got you to get this done quick. So he's trooper. You can't say enough good about Alan. All right. Any further questions or comments before we vote?
Call for the question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, announce the vote. 13 yes, 1 no, 1 abstained, and the resolution passes.
Our next resolution is 2002-09 resolution requesting the General Assembly of the State of Tennessee, specifically State Senator Rusty Crowe, State Representative Matthew Hill, State Representative Michael Van Hus, to sponsor a joint resolution on behalf of Washington County naming interchange of I-26 University Parkway Bridge at exit 24 in the memory of Dr. Billy Green.
Motion made by Commissioner Davenport, seconded by Commissioner Fitzgerald to approve the resolution. Commissioner Jones?
Yeah, I just wanted to raise a concern about the process by which we name these places. I don't think these appeared in the agenda in detail enough for the public to be fully aware that these namings were happening. And the second one is the one that really caught my attention. I think the first one, and this is just my bias, my husband was a 20-year Air Force veteran, and seeing the name of a local hero wouldn't cross anyone's mind. The second one is certainly a name that is well recognized. And I don't have opinions either way, specifically about Dr. Graham, but I did wonder how did that get advertised? Was the public aware that we're going to put these signs up? I know that people come into Washington County. That's the first exit that they come to, that they would get off and be in our county. And signs tell you a little bit about the place you're in, and people see the signs. People have thoughts about the signs. And I just feel like our process should be a little different in naming roads. That's all.
Any questions or any further comments? Questions been called? Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 13 yes, 1 no, 1 abstained, the resolution passes. Commissioner Davenport?
That's all I have.
Anything else? All right. Next item is the Rules Committee report. Commissioner Tester?
Thank you, Chairman. Our minutes are on page 82 of your packet. We are currently working on some changes to Rules 12A and 12F. 12A is Committee on Committees, and 12F is our standing committees. We are hoping to have those ready for commission approval and do them simultaneously at the same time and bring them to you sometime next couple months.
All right.
Any questions?
No questions? All right. Thank you, Commissioner Tester. Congratulations, Mayor. I see you've been elected the chairman of the Washington County Committee for Resale of Land. If you'll give us a report. Well, Commissioner Jones, here you go.
It's my moment to shine. I would like you all to consider resolution number 200210, resolution instructing the clerk and master not to offer a bid on behalf of the county for properties that have environmental risk or financial liabilities associated with the properties and exceed the value of the parcel. And I guess I'd bring that to you in the form of a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Jones to approve the resolution. Do I have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Lyon. Discussion? Commissioner Ford?
Ms. Jones, would you restate that again? I didn't get it. I didn't hear all that.
So we're asking the clerk and master not to offer a bid. In other words, we don't want the county to purchase any properties that have environmental risks or financial liabilities associated with them when those liabilities or risks exceed the value of the parcel itself.
I got it.
Commissioner Wheeler?
Who is making the determination? Is it the clerk and master being asked to make the determination about the environmental risk or financial liabilities?
It came from the attorney. It came from the evaluation.
So he makes that evaluation? And I guess my question is really, are they willing to do that, to make that evaluation? So if they are, I think that's fine.
And they did identify, I think eventually it came up to being like 7 or 8 properties in the context of that meeting that are in that state of upside downness. And so that's where this came from.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 15 yes, the resolution passes. Commissioner Jones, anything else?
Nope, that's all I have for you.
Thank you. All right, the Budget Committee report, Commissioner Wheeler.
Mr. Chairman, I'd ask that you receive our minutes from the February 12th meeting of the Budget Committee, found at page 98 of the packet. We have one resolution this evening, Resolution 20-2, 11, resolution amending fiscal year budget 2019-2020 regarding Highway Department for 2020 truck-mounted 2,000-gallon asphalt distributor, found at page 105 of your packet.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler to approve the resolution, seconded by Commissioner Malone. Discussion? Question?
Call for question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 15 yes, the resolution passes. Anything else, Commissioner Wheeler?
No, sir. Mr.
No,
Chairman.
we don't have any old business to report. We do have Resolution 2002-12. It's a resolution approving the election of notaries public for appointment or reappointment for Washington County, Tennessee. Motion made by Commissioner Light to approve that resolution, seconded by Commissioner McAllister. Any questions, comments? Questions been called. Madam Clerk, switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Commissioner Harris and Commissioner E. Well, I'm just waiting on Commissioner Harris. He's all tied up in his coat over there. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 15 yes, and the resolution passes. We do have one item, actually two items. The cutoff date for the next month's County Commission agenda is Thursday, March the 12th, 2020 at 12 noon. Commissioner Tester, let me get you a microphone here. I know he had an announcement to make. Commissioner, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know everybody's in a hurry to get out of here, so I'll make this quick, but I have a little announcement to make. The Lord has blessed my wife and I with a new family member. We're not sure boy or girl yet, but we're expecting, we're calling the baby Peanut because we don't know boy or girl yet, so we're expecting Peanut to be born on August 31st.
All right.
And she's been really sick, so she gets the credit. She's been really sick, so.
Oh, no. Well, yeah, we'll have to make a motion or something here on that one. I don't know. All right, anything else? Anyone else like to make an announcement? Or Sherry, is there anything I have forgot to announce? All right, all right. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn? Motion made by Commissioner Ford, seconded by Commissioner Carriger to adjourn.